Let's look at homework exercise number 3 from section 3.7. It says use a truth table to determine whether the symbolic form of the argument is valid or invalid. Okay, so what we need to do here is do a truth table, and if the truth table, what we're doing is the truth table is the two premises put together with an and statement. So the one premise is P and Q. Premise number 1, and it's always a conjunction. Premise number 2, P or Q. Those two, and then it turns into an if-then. Do those two always imply the conclusion, which is if Q, then P? If this ends up being a tautology, all the statements in the last line, truth line, are all true, then it is going to be a valid argument. If it's not a tautology, then it's invalid. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a truth table. We're going to go ahead and do P and Q. And we've got true, true, false, false. And this would be true, false, true, false. And that will give us our 4 different options of true and false for P and Q. Okay, step number 1. In order to work out this entire statement, we're going to do P and Q. P and Q is when they're both true, it's true. Otherwise, when one's false or both false, it is false. So that means P and Q would be true, false, false, false. Okay, step 2, we're going to do the disjunction, P or Q. And it's true when both are true, or one's true, or it's only false when they're both false. So the disjunction would be true, 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 and false. Because here both are true. P is Q in row 2, and Q is true in row 3. Okay, now we're going to put these two columns 3 and 4 together with the conjunction. Okay, so P and Q and P or Q. So we're doing a conjunction with column 3 and column 4. So true and true is true, false and true is false, false and true is false, and false is false, because a disjunction or a conjunction, we're doing a conjunction, is only true when both are true. Okay, now we're doing if Q, then P. The conclusion is in parentheses, so that would be our step number 4. If Q, then P. So we got to be careful. If true, then true is true. If false, then true. Again, remember, F is the antecedent, or the if part. So when the if part is false, it's automatically true. If true, then false, right? In row 3, that's when we break our promise, that's false. And if false, then false is also true for an if-then. Okay, so we've got that done. Now we're doing our entire statement, okay, which again, the if part is going to be this right here. It's going to be row 5, and the then part, so it's going to be row 5 is the if part. Does that imply if Q, then P, which would be row, or column, not row, column going up and down, column 6, right? It's this right here, okay? So the whole statement is, this is the if part, which is in column 5 right here, and the then part is right here, and we're doing an if-then, right? So if column 5, then column 6, and if-then, a right arrow. So if true, then true is true. Sorry. If false, then true is true. If false, then false is true. And if false, then true is true. So what happens is we have a tautology. The last line is a tautology, which tells us the argument is indeed valid. So we had to do all that work to determine whether we get a tautology, and we did. Again, we had to do P and Q, step 1 right here, column 3, P or Q, the disjunction, column 4, then we put them together with an and then we went over and did the conclusion, if Q, then P, and then finally the entire statement would be, the if part would be right here in column 5. Then does it apply this if Q then P, which is in row 6. When we did that if then with the column 5 and column 6, we got all trues, which would make the argument valid. All right, so let's go ahead and put that in and check our answer. The argument is valid. All right, very good. Let's look at question homework exercise number 4. Translate each argument in symbolic form and determine whether the argument is valid or invalid. You may use a truth table or compare to a standard valid or invalid form. Okay, so if he went to jail, let P be he went to jail. So that's one premise is P, if P, right? If then, even though then, it's an if then, even though the then's not here, then he did not commit the crime. Q is he did commit the crime. So with the word not, it's not Q. Okay, the other premise is he committed a crime, which is Q, right? Therefore, he did not go to jail, which is not P. Okay, so now what we have is one of the standard valid forms is the contrapositive. If P then Q, and you've got the negation of the then part, then you can conclude the negation of the antecedent or the if part. And notice these two are this right here, what we have matches. The only fact is that instead of a Q, we have a not Q to begin with. That's okay. But then the opposite of the not Q is Q, so they have opposites. So then we can conclude the opposite of the antecedent, which is not P. So this actually matches the contraposition. It's called the contraposition, and that is a valid argument. So by comparing it, looking at that, we know the argument is definitely valid. Now in symbolic form, the argument is, remember, you put the two premises together. If P, then not Q, and Q, that's together, does that always imply the conclusion not P? That would be the is valid, and the symbolic form of the argument is in that form right there. We'd have to put in that statement. That would indeed give us a tautology. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that, put that in, P and not Q, and Q implies not P. Okay, so we'll put that in. All right, closing clear. So the argument is valid, and it is a bracket, and then it was a paren, P, right arrow, not Q. Then we need a paren around that, and then the and Q, and then we need our bracket. Then we need the right arrow. Does that imply the conclusion, which is not P? And there's our correct answer. All right, very good. This is we're going to stop this session at this problem number 4. If you have any questions, this is your instructor, Dr. Swears. I hope you found this video helpful. If you still need more help on any of these problems, send me an email through the inbox in the Canvas course through the FSW portal, or send me an email at send me an email through the inbox through the Canvas course. All right, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I hope you found these videos helpful, and again, thank you, and thank you.